Hi, you're watching NewsX and I'm Megha Sharma. With me is a very special guest who's flown in to India from the United States of America. He is at the helm of affairs at the American Jewish Committee. He is the CEO of AJC and he's spent 12 years in service at the United States House of Representatives. He's a politician, he's a lawyer. It's good to have you, Ted, on the telecast with us.
Thank you very much.
How has been the experience for you this time around when you visited India and particularly Delhi?
It's been a very productive trip for us. AJC works hard to advance the relationship between the United States and Israel, between India and Israel, between the United States and India. The opportunity for us to focus on all of those things here in Delhi has been, it's gone very well. The reception has been outstanding.
Brilliant. You also had a meeting with the External Affairs Minister today. You also had a meeting with the Defense Minister. I'm very intrigued to know when the message that comes out from the External Affairs Minister is that the relationship between the three nations, India, Israel and United States of America, has gone a sea change since 2014. What does he mean and what is the impact that we'll see in the coming years of this trilateral that is forming?
Well, the minister was clear that the relationships among all three are strong. That the United States is and continues to be a strong and important partner. That Israel is of growing importance. That there's a clear understanding by the minister about the role that Israel plays not just in its own region but in the world, and why the benefits of the countries coming together, specifically among themselves and with the UAE through the I2U2, is so important. It is a sea change and a very positive one at that, affecting all of the countries in a good way.
It's interesting that you mentioned about a very strategic partnership or forum or a grouping, if I may say, of the I2U2, and it all started with Abraham Accords in 2020 that was negotiated by President Trump, ex-President Trump. Do you see India and Israel and their role, which is then going to be all-encompassing in the Middle Eastern region, keeping in mind it wasn't the case a few years ago for both India and Israel?
Yeah, well, I think the role that India and Israel, together with the US and UAE, can play is to build upon the tremendous opportunities that the Abraham Accords offers, whether it's the innovation that comes with through these relationships. It's the opportunity to develop closer ties. It's the focus on the kinds of things that will benefit all of the countries. It's why while I'm here, we'll be visiting one of the centers of excellence, agricultural excellence that Israel has created here in India. It's why the opportunity again to benefit from really innovation and investment and ultimately far beyond that, the people-to-people benefits that will come as well. It's clearly an important part of policy here in India and for the other three countries as well.
And we talk about India and Israel bilateral ties. Is there a requirement of an FTA to be signed as an FTA that has been signed between India and America? Or beg your pardon, between Israel and America?
No, I know that those efforts have been ongoing for some time, and we've had some conversations since we've been here with officials from all of the countries. Obviously, we're interested in seeing the ties deepen. It's, as I said, it's in the best interest of all the countries, and whatever is necessary to see those advance. That's what's being played out right now.
Let's also speak about the defense sector. When we talk about Israel and India and bilateral ties, defense cannot be left as a standout sector. And you've met the defense minister, Raksha Mantri, just a while ago. How are we forging our ties ahead, keeping in mind Israel is perhaps the third or the fourth largest exporter of defense equipment to India?
Right. Well, that's an important part of the relationship. There is a realization, and this was made clear in the meetings that we've had, that Israel can provide cutting-edge technology in the defense area, that Israel is a reliable partner, and that relationship is one that benefits both countries. So that's why we're so encouraging of its continued growth.
Okay, you've already spoken about agriculture, this agriculture, water conservation as well, on which Israel has been working really hard. You spoke about the excellence centers. What's the goal ahead when you come about building these, government of Israel, the Israeli embassy, they've all been putting the impetus towards that direction. What's the goal? What is it that we are looking to achieve?
Well, it's not just the governments. It's most important that the benefits actually grow between people, and that's going to start as businesses interact more. And again, the innovation that comes out of these countries, especially, and being able to capitalize on the skilled workforce, on the investment opportunities. That's in the technology area in particular, where it's clear that Israel and India and the United States as well, are such leaders in the world. It's only natural that we would find ways to work more closely together. As businesses interact more, invest more, create more jobs, that's going to benefit the people, that ultimately will benefit the governments as well.
Talking about businesses and corporates, you've also held these freewheeling talks with corporates, with businessmen, with entrepreneurs, with the AJC Indiaspora conversation or a round table that you had. Could you give us a gist of what happened?
Sure. Well, we're proud to partner with the Indian diaspora and Indiaspora in particular. There's an enormous opportunity in the United States to build closer ties between the Jewish community and the work that AJC does and the Indian diaspora. We work together in the United States on a number of issues already. We advocated for as quickly as possible anyway, getting a U.S. ambassador here to Delhi. We think it's important, sends an important signal about the role that India plays in the world. We work together on the issue of H-1B visas, the fact that there are Indian tech workers who are at risk of being kicked out of the United States, trying to extend that. That's something that we did together with the community. And so in the meeting that we had here, we had the opportunity with members of the Indian diaspora and members of the business community here, entrepreneurs from here, to talk about all of the ways that we can continue to build those relationships in ways that will benefit the Indian community in America, the Jewish community in America, but more importantly and more broadly, the ties between India and the United States.
What are these key sectors, if I may ask, are of particular interest for you to be the liaison partner between the Indian Americans, the diaspora, between America, Israel, and also when you come over here, visit over here, the Indian community, the businesses, the entrepreneurs. Perhaps if you have had site visits as well.
Well, we had an interesting meeting this afternoon with the petroleum minister. I think the energy space is certainly one area where there are opportunities. Technology overall is clearly an area where there's such cutting edge advances that are happening in India, in Israel, in the United States, that looking for ways to bring those entrepreneurs together, to build their businesses, to build out their businesses. In I2U2, the role that UAE can play in helping to scale up those businesses. That's what we're looking at. And it's the things that affect the future of the world. It's agri-tech and water tech and climate tech and things that can really reshape how the world operates at a time when we're looking at these massive advancements in AI and quantum computing and the like. Okay,
fantastic. I'm going to also shed some more light into the border issues that Israel continues to face, whether it is Syria. There's been an attack where the Aleppo airport has been attacked, has been bombed. Talk about the West Bank, the Gaza Strip. And there have been terror attacks after terror attacks which have led to the loss of lives in Israel. It's been a long-standing problem. It doesn't seem like there is going to be a long-lasting solution in the few years to pass by. How is the AJC, is that also your focal point?
Sure. AJC also works to advance Israel's place in the world overall, and that means standing with Israel at times of crisis when there are terror attacks. What we read about in Aleppo is just a further case of Israel taking action that's necessary to keep its border with Syria safe. You have Iran just across the border now in Syria, so Israel is going to take action necessary to protect itself, just as other countries, just as India would, just as other countries would, and so we want to be supportive of of Israel's ability to defend herself and the people of Israel.
Okay. Let's also turn to domestic politics, and that has been quite the volatile one, with Netanyahu again becoming the premier. What do you see in terms of a number of these protests that have been gathering pace in wake of the judicial reforms that have been brought forth?
Well, it's a really great question to be asked in India, the biggest democracy in the world, talking about the importance of democracy and looking at hundreds of thousands of people on the streets in Israel is the surest sign that Israeli democracy is alive and well. People feel very strongly about the issue of judicial reform as it plays out. Our position at AJC has been that the process should be thoughtful and deliberative and needs to respect civil liberties. We're very supportive of President Herzog's efforts to create a plan to get to a compromise. And there have been some positive signs that we read about this morning. So Israel is a democracy that's working its way through this issue, and I think it's important for us to be clear about what we expect, but ultimately respect the fact that Israel is a democracy.
It's interesting what is happening in Israel domestically, and particularly when it comes to judicial reforms, because there's something of a conversation and a debate starter here in India as well in terms of transformation of judiciary and whether there should be legislature and executive that should be given the power that is going to be overarching as compared to going about electing your own members in the judiciary. So there are these parallels that can be drawn. Can India learn something from Netanyahu government?
Well, I will tell you, I don't really want to wade into Indian politics. That is absolutely true. But I think we can, as these conversations take place, they're the kinds of conversations that can only take place in democracy and in countries where ultimately people have the final say, voters have the final say, and that's what helps to bring India and the United States and Israel together.
Okay. Also talking about the massive issue of anti-Semitism, which is still a talking point. And if I could take you through the statistics, Jews are perhaps the largest faith in America that are targeted, even now. And then there you have the Sikhs, and then you have blacks, and you have Asians. So what is it that AJC is doing to tackle that situation? And it has been going on for long.
Sure. Well, Jews represent about 2% of the U.S. population, but also represent close to 60% of religiously based hate crimes. So this is something that we've been focused on, and we're doing everything we can to try to confront rising anti-Semitism. It means working together with others in the community, finding allies to work with, standing up with them against anti-Semitism, against hatred. There can be no acceptance of this kind of hatred. And what it does, and what's important to remember, is that when there's anti-Semitism, it never just stops with the Jewish community. The entire society is ultimately at risk, and democracy starts to get chipped away at when you allow it to fester. So we've tried to provide training and advocacy around this issue so people can better understand what it's meant to the Jewish community for thousands of years in facing anti-Semitism. Important to note, as we're sitting here in Delhi, that there's been a Jewish community in India for 2,000 years that's never faced persecution of any kind. That's a very important thing for us to remember as AJC leadership, and especially when we go back to the United States and talk about this trip.
Okay, going back to America, and the presidential elections are going to take place in 2024. There
Yes, they will.
There are a lot of Indian, and there's a lot of noise that is being created, and it's only going to become more chaotic as months pass by. There are a lot of Indian Americans that have put in their hat in the ring, and there are a lot of, like Nikki Haley, we have Kamala Harris, we also have, I'm forgetting the name, Ramaswamy, who's also got into, he's a Republican. How do you view the rise of Indian community? It once used to be a working class community, to then taking control of the bigger roles when it comes to the CEO, the management of the top notch of the big tech companies, and now obviously getting into the helm of affairs when it comes to politics of America.
Well, I think you said it. I can't speak to what the perception may have been in the past, but clearly now we're at a moment where where Indian Americans sit at the highest levels of American business and politics. You mentioned the CEOs at major companies in the United States and around the world, but it needs to be pointed out, and I'm glad you did, that the Vice President of the United States and the former UN ambassador, who's now a leading candidate for President of the United States, both hail from the community as well. It says that the Indian American community has succeeded and should be incredibly proud of that success. The Jewish community welcomes the opportunity to work with the Indian American community, just as we have, to build upon the successes in both of our communities to help strengthen America overall.
It's also interesting that all the Indian American candidates fighting for the presidential elections have raised the issue of China and how there are supposed to be increased sanctions and boycotting of Chinese goods, Chinese ministers, Chinese corporates. How does the AJC look at these things, and is that going to be an impactful way of changing the dynamics of running businesses in America?
Well, in my prior world, I had some insight. I was a member of Congress, and this is one issue where there is strong bipartisan support. Interestingly, the support that exists around some of the concerns with respect to China is the same kind of support that we see in support for the U.S.-Israel relationship and the U.S.-India relationship. I think it's important that when there are those moments that bring the Democratic and Republican parties together, we should build upon that. And at AJC, as we go about our work as advocates, we look for those opportunities again to build upon those shared policy priorities that our communities face.
Okay, and finally, before I let you go, Ted, obviously you have a few more days over here. They're going to be hectic. What's the schedule looking like?
It is very hectic. I'm happy. Well, we'll be here for a little while longer. Then we're going to Jaipur before going to Mumbai. So we'll have the opportunity to see the Jewish community in Mumbai. We'll do some more with the business community when we're in Mumbai, and we happen to be here for the Jewish holiday of Purim and the holiday of Holi. So we're looking forward to some kind of celebration when we're in Jaipur as well.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.